All right, welcome to the On Purpose podcast. Today's episode's deep dive is on the lightest touch possible. It's a leading distinction that's in the 4.0 visionary leadership program. And I have been practicing this week, and I want to go deeper on this. So, Kirk, can you distinguish what the lightest touch possible is first?
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, I can. Let's see. So it came into my awareness, um, I think when I was in training on another campus at another time, another era. But we were talking about how to work with people, and if you have a room full of coaches, a room full of leaders, some of them are a little tougher, a little straighter. Some of them are more fun. Some of them are more inspiring. Some of them tell better stories. Some of them draw lines better. Like even within a group of highly trained, professionals, there's still everybody's got their flavor. And we were noticing that we were trying to distinguish like what different approaches or qualities got what kind of results. Like obviously, we're always looking for the best results. And then um, someone told this story about how to train a horse, which is interesting because if you train a horse, if you have take a wild horse and break them in so that you can ride them, you've got a couple options. You can go fast and hard. You can be loud. You can be aggressive. You can push really hard, pull really hard, and kind of force bend the horse to your will. And that does work, and people do that, and you do get to ride the horse. But that horse will always need to be roughly handled to respond. Like their baseline of what's normal is going to be rough and tough and loud and that kind of thing because that's how they got trained. That's how they got introduced to being with human beings. That's how they arrived in this new world where they're working with human beings and letting human beings ride them and stuff, right? So with this new world is this particular baseline. Or you can go a little slower and be a little more gentle and use the lightest touch possible, like the lightest push, the lightest pull, the lightest voice, the lightest command, just enough to get the horse's attention and get them to move in the direction you'd like them to move. And if you'll do that, the baseline of that horse, what they'll respond to is much lower. And so you have a horse now that will respond to the lightest touch possible. So if you're building teams, which a lot of what my training in the early days was centered around building teams, you some leaders were very rough with their teams, and their teams didn't like working with them. Like, if you got chosen to be on this person's team, you'd be disappointed. If you got chosen to be on this person's team, you'd be excited. And I started looking at that not from preference or that kind of thing, but I know that when I feel respected, seen, heard, appreciated, um, I I'm much more likely to give whatever we're doing together my very best. But if I feel disrespected, unheard, unappreciated, I'm more likely, especially in the past, I'm more likely to do just enough to do my job and get out of there. And so if you magnify that out times a team of 10 people or 100 people or whatever, or if you magnify that out toward, one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years kind of thing, that makes a big difference in production. That makes a big difference in performance, in just the numbers, in just the performance, but it also makes a big difference in um, um, the experience of your team members. And that might sound a little fluffy to some people. Well, they're there to do a job. I don't care what their experience is. And people don't say it quite like that because that wouldn't sound right. But, you know, uh, but people being appreciated does enhance performance. I'm not talking about heroed or babied or coddled. I'm talking about respected, seen, and appreciated. And so, um, um, so with regard to a leader leading a group of people, a leader like leading an event, if the people that the leader's speaking to feel known, respected, and appreciated, they're more easily going to open up to a new perspective or let themselves go to a scary or uncomfortable or dark place that they, you know, like going back in the past and feeling the pain, that's very scary for people. And if people feel trusted and, respected and appreciated, they're going to feel much safer to open up. So the whole room just moves so much easier, with so much less effort and time. And then if you're building teams where people do stuff over time, over days or weeks or months, um, you there's going to be better performance out of each individual, but there's also going to be a longer duration for each person. And if you're somebody who's worked with teams a lot, you'll know that perhaps the biggest expense, or for sure one of the biggest expenses, is turnover. You spend 5 years getting someone trained, and they leave, and then they get replaced by somebody who's not trained, and that's a that's a that's a lot of energy and time and talent that just walked out the door, you know? So if you had 10% or 20% less people leaving every year due to feeling disrespected or unappreciated, that makes a palpable difference in the numbers and the experience and the workload of the leader, the trainer who's training everybody. Like, it just really makes a big difference. So the difference, each individual thing might not be that big a difference, 5%, 10%, 15, 20%, but you start layering it, it's that percentage week in and week out, or month in and month out. And it's the less people turning over and more people staying, more people inspiring others to be part of your team. So it even attracts people to your team. So it compounds very quickly. That the benefit of it compounds very quickly. And then also from the standpoint of the leader, right? I don't I I'm sure there are exceptions, but I don't think most leaders want to be forceful. I don't think leaders want to be mean and tough and rough and impatient and, you know, aggressive. Like, I don't think that's what leaders want. They just lack the skill to have a better approach, or lack the awareness that there is a better approach. And so the lightest touch possible points people to what I consider this better approach. Now, there's some caveats to the lightest touch possible. I noticed that sometimes people need a very sharp stimulus to get their attention. That people get in ruts, they get triggered, they get into a pattern they've been in for many, many years, or there's a high trauma pattern or whatever, and they can't hear and they can't see or whatever. Or people are in deep patterns where they keep doing the same dysfunctional thing day in and day out for weeks or months or whatever. So sometimes I will purposely turn up the temperature, turn up the volume to get heard, right? And that might take quite a bit depending on the situation and who I'm working with and so forth. But that isn't going to be the new baseline. That's just a temporary elevation of energy to get attention, and then that drops down as far as it can and still hold that tension or forward momentum. So that was a lot. Let me pause there.
Um, have you seen any pitfalls in doing this?
Um, take Using the lightest touch possible could be misused by the hero, like the people pleaser, the person I used to be, to never draw lines or never say the truth or never make someone uncomfortable. This isn't about not making people uncomfortable. Transformation and coaching is inherently uncomfortable because there must be a shift in actions, which means there's a shift in feeling, which means there's a shift in perspective. So there's got to be a new shift in perspective, which will cause new feelings and new actions. That's just part of transformation. That's just part of coaching. So the nature of it is that it's uncomfortable, and this using the lightest touch possible is a is an intention to, I guess, use the best practice possible, be the most effective and the most efficient as you're doing this thing that can be very uncomfortable. So the pitfall would be to use, oh, I'm just using the lightest touch possible, to not confront dysfunction, not have the uncomfortable conversation, not tell somebody what they really need to hear to move up to the next step.
Okay. And personally, I'm going through this with my own coaching and practicing this. It's knowing when to actually confront and when not to. Like, there's I'm like, okay, well, I've
Oh
already
yeah.
confronted some major things right now. Do I say this one, even though that it's right there in my face? Do I continue to keep going?
Mhm, mhm.
And so I've been running into that. I'm like, okay, uh, okay, I'm not gonna, I literally just didn't do it this time. I'm like, I'm not gonna say, I've given you a big
Yeah.
confrontation, so I'm not going to say the thing, but it doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to say the thing, later. So I'm
Well,
running
that's
into
great. Yeah, so I call that's a dilemma that I call, when to hold them and when to fold them. There you are, you're a coach, you see something, you see it, right? But is this the highest and best time, or is tomorrow morning the highest and best time, or is just waiting for my moment whenever that happens? Is that the highest and best? I've made all three choices for sure. And that brings me to another distinction, which is um, the successful general. That word successful is critically important. The successful general always chooses the time and place of the battle, right? So there you are, you see the thing. Is this the best time and place? You have to find a way to answer that for yourself. Is the meeting that's coming up tomorrow morning, is that the best time and place? Or should I just hang on to this for a minute and just have faith that some golden opportunity will roll right up? It'll be like, oh, this is it, which is actually really fun. I love those moments. I'm hanging on to something for a while, and all of a sudden, oh, this is the moment. This is the moment. Beep, beep, beep. Alarm bells are going off in my head. This is it. This is it. Go, go, go. And then, roll it out. So, and then along with that is, what is my internal state? Right. So this might look like the best moment, but I'm triggered AF. Okay, well, all of a sudden that makes it not the best moment, perhaps. Or maybe there's a sufficient relationship or an appropriate environment where I can share my wisdom even if I'm triggered. Now, that's a dicey business. I've not found that to be very successful. I think my position of authority here makes that less available to me than for others. Like if I show up triggered, people get really impacted by it. Where someone else shows up triggered, it's sort of a mild blip. So all those are things that I consider when I'm extras. But you brought in something about the light such possible that I don't think I've mentioned, which is also, is this the time or is later the time? Because people who are not exercising the light touch will just see the shot and take it without any consideration. Is this actually the highest time and the best location?
Mm. And then how do you approach that with time? Like you've seen the thing and are you going to hold it and wait for the opportune moment, or are you going to see them go through it? Maybe they don't do it anymore. And do you still confront it or set it down?
Well, if they're not doing it anymore, then it just becomes a fun share. Hey, man, I remember I've been watching you do this for months, but I just love that you had that breakthrough. That's awesome. That could reinforce it. What you appreciates. So if they've already on the other side, I might bring it up in appreciation, still with an intention to get up underneath it, but via appreciation. But with regard to, is this the time or is later the time, that's a subjective thing. There's no calculation for that. You have to choose. John gets out of the way. I look at the factors that I discuss. What's my internal state? What's the environment? How much time do I have? Do I anticipate they could receive me right now? Or, when the storm is blown over a little bit, might it be more possible for them to receive me? Is this just a little bit confronting or a lot confronting? Is this person someone who gets wildly triggered very easy, or do they have a large capacity to take in uncomfortable information? All those are, different all the
Yeah.
time in situations. And so now something about that is I have this paradigm inside of me that we all have an energy signature, right? If you close your eyes and imagine someone, especially someone who's big in your life, you have this sort of box that you have them in. Oh, they're funny, they're powerful, they're scary, they're integrous, they're a crook. Um, you remember how you felt the last time you were with them, and that goes into it. Um, so how you answer that question over and over again. Is this the time or is later the time? Do I go in hard or I go in soft? Do I go in with appreciation or do I go in confronting dysfunction or just whatever it is? That will define your flavor of leadership, right? The people know me as a leader only by how they've observed me lead over time. And so they have whatever awareness or whatever opinion or judgment they have, but it's derived from their experience in life and the lens they're looking at me through and how I show up consistently over time. And how I show up consistently over time might influence how they see me, how they receive me, even through their lens, or it might not. It depends on how thick the lens is. Some people just see me as a arrogant bully when I'm just simply doing my job and like no to this and yes to that and directing traffic a little bit, even if I'm being a little gentle about it, because the only experience they've ever had of authority is people being really rough and tough. Oh, they've been treated roughly. People in their life didn't use the lightest touch possible. So a lot of people come into our community that never experience the lightest touch possible. They always experience the roughest touch possible. And I might exercise my authority on something and say something, and the lens that they receive me through is being hurt or being me being a bully or pushy or aggressive or something, because that's the lens that they look at authority through. But my only way to impact that is just to keep showing up at my highest self to the best of my ability over time and reliably. And if I fail to do that in some way, to clean that up in a transparent, open-hearted way so that people can see my true intention, my true direction. And, over time, I become more and more, the vision they have of me becomes more and more clear and more sync with who I actually am.
And how do you balance that for yourself? Because in leadership, it tends to be where people are looking through that filter a lot. And so how do you like clean the mud off like when people throw it at you, like you got to clean up your own thing. It's like, okay, how do you do
Yeah.
that?
Well, that's a really great question. Um, um, the overarching commitments that I see are things like vulnerability, authenticity, transparency. See, we're all hiding behind a mask. We're all wearing that mask of how we think the world wants us to be. You know, the nice people have a nice mask, and all of their communications and actions and commitments run through this filter of nice, which literally distorts that everything about them, from 1% to 100%. So, every time we put on a mask, we are by definition inauthentic. We're running everything about us through a filter designed to make us more acceptable to the people around us. Okay, uh, so for the charming people, the nice people, the sweet people, those folks, right? Now, playing for the other team, the tough people are wearing a mask of being tough. So I was one of those. I was actually both a people pleaser and a tough person, depending on what gear you came in at, depending on what path you chose. But the tough guy in me was just hiding a hurt little boy that just wanted love and connection. And through the failure to receive that, and through feeling hurt or fearful of life, I created being tough. Something happened and I created being tough. So, but that's a mask. So when a leader shows up in front of people and literally takes the mask off in a way that is inescapable, people notice. Like, oh, and then the only reason I say that people don't take their mask off is because they don't think it's possible or they don't think it's safe. But if somebody in front of you does it in a way that's inspiring, so you're filled with inspiration, you're filled with life, watching somebody who you could respect take off the mask and say the thing that you would never say, and reveal the thing that you would never reveal and show the thing that you would never show and talk about the thing that you would never talk about. That's like I remember that experience. I remember that experience. It was mind blowing for me. And there was such dignity and honor. And it was just, it was inspiring beyond my ability to fully distinguish. And so I wanted to follow that person. I wanted more of that. I wanted to be someone who could be real. I wanted to be somebody who could be a contribution. I wanted to be someone who could speak and move a room, and not move a room like with force or power or, you know, making people do stuff, but move the room in terms of people elevating and people coming to life and people going from angry to peaceful. Just like when I first saw that, I was hooked. And so if I really want to get the attention of a room full of people, what I'm most interested in is how real and raw and authentic I can be to model what it is to be someone not wearing a mask to the best of my ability, and let that do the heavy lifting for me. So it's really the being, I believe, has the greatest impact on people, because we've all heard the words. You can go on YouTube and hear somebody saying all the pretty words, all the transformational words, but there's just something off. The energy doesn't match the words, their reputation doesn't match the words, whatever it is, right? But when you see someone and you experience congruency, you experience somebody's being, somebody's words, and someone's actions being 100% lined up, is very rare and is very noticeable. It may not be that noticeable to people who are resonating very lowly. Let those who have ears to hear, hear. But for those who are ready to see something real, see something new, see something different, see another way to be a human being, it is inescapable when you see somebody take off the mask and then like begin a beautiful evening by first taking off the mask. And then you lead the whole thing as the real you. And what I've discovered over time is most people really want that.
Yeah. Um, I feel like you just distinguished honor, which is
Let's tell that story. So Sarah Jean came on. So we play this little game here that I don't want her to tell me what we're going to talk about before we start. I find it's better just to work from inspiration. So that's worked out. That's worked out really great. Except today, she goes, "Okay, now distinguish honor." And I've never actually gone through that. I've never really created that journey for myself before. So I just gave it a shot and just kind of very quickly, in about a minute and a half, came to a dead end. And then we restarted with the lightest touch possible. And so that's why it was so funny when she just said, I think you can distinguish honor.
Yeah, I was moved. Like the way that you were describing that, you could feel like an emotional resonance that came through when you were speaking about what just happened. And I literally heard the distinction, honor. You were honoring an experience that you had, a moment that you shared. So can you actually deep dive into that experience?
Well, what I want to say first is that's what I'm talking about. So I was being real. I took off the mask. I opened up my heart. I said what they were listening to say. I went deep. I was feeling my feelings. And then your response to that is being moved and wanting more. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly it. So I love where you're going with honor. I don't I don't know what to say, but what I heard in what you just said was honoring my journey, honoring the process, honoring what work I've done to be someone who can contribute in this way and assist other people contributing. So actually what I'm hearing is appreciation, like bringing great appreciation and great respect to a journey or a person or a situation or an accomplishment. So that's what I'm currently hearing.
Wow. And I feel like it's a presence that literally surrounds the lightest touch possible. It's there to give, like it's something that's given through
Yeah.
that distinction. So it's wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing honor is very much like respect, relating to people as important and up to something important. But there's like an element of appreciation in there, like it's like respect plus appreciation, something like that. I think there'll be more to it once we feel into it a little bit, but
Well,
that's
yeah. Yeah, it's gratitude. It's being right in the present moments, and it's in the presence, but it's got a humility to it, and like a receiving, like yeah, it's sacred, it's yeah, yeah. Deep respect. I'm feeling it.
so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, trying to distinguish something for the first time, real time. You heard it here first.
Oh,
Um, we're someplace really good.
but you were hearing it just for the first time, guys. But
Oh yes, 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 yes. So one day somebody be talking about honor, and we'll be crazy, something beautiful. I go, wait a minute, we got that recorded somewhere. Hold up, let's take a look. So,
yeah, before coming to Earth Waking, I just want to share this is I didn't even know what any of these things were, and I feel like now I want to bring in honor in every decision, every thought, every action that I do, and and like see where that's coming from. Like, why am I doing this? And bringing it to the purpose on purpose podcast. Like it's our only thing is to please God. And so when we're honoring God, when we're honoring ourselves, we're honoring each other, we're honoring the mission, we're honoring everything. So I just wanted to bring that
I
in.
love that. Love it.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm reminded of to please God, love your brothers and sisters, support your brothers and sisters. And there's
Yeah.
somehow that's feels like it's tied into honor.
Oh, yes, yes. That's literally what he says is like you please God, but you also please me by pleasing each other,
Yeah,
so that's even the second step is
yeah,
to serve one another.
yeah.
Yeah. And how do we do that? The lightest touch possible.
At least that's what I'm recommending.
Yeah. There's also this flavor that's coming in though, is like it's not being a marshmallow. It's not like tolerating things either. So how do we weave that in to this conversation?
I remember I used to say that. I used to when I think it was Awaken Life Live when I was leading. Part of what I would say is I'm very sensitive, but that doesn't mean I'm a marshmallow. It doesn't mean if you go boo, I'm going to run away crying. It just means that I'm taking in a lot of information. So I used to use that phrase. I haven't heard that in a long time. But yeah, so being a marshmallow is the people pleaser. It's like not wanting to do or say anything that would rock the boat. And the risk or the threat of rocking the boat is losing that connection of manipulation. Harsh words for the people pleaser, right? But being a people pleaser is all about manipulation. You love bomb people to get what you want. You give so that you can get. So the whole thing is a manipulation. Being a people pleaser is very different than being generous or kind or a contribution. It's just it's being a people pleaser is to being a contribution what um, oh my gosh is oh uh, is the same as what being nice is to being kind. Being kind is a way of being. Being nice is a manipulative overlay on top of all of your communications to manipulate and to have people receive you in a particular way, to control how people receive you. Oh, they're such a nice person. And so the people pleaser is up to something and it's manipulative, and I can talk shit about people pleasers because I wasn't. So they're up to something that's a manipulation. Now they would have a hard time seeing this and a harder time admitting it, but the love bombing and the service and the good deeds and the quick smile and the letting the transgression go, letting the slap go, letting the insult go, letting the dysfunction go, it's all a manipulation to control the relationship so I can have the whatever I'm there to get, attention, significance, or material support, or whatever it is. You know, the marshmallow is the act of a people pleaser. So that's exactly not what we're doing here. We're not making people feel comfortable. We're we're pointing out the truth, or reality to people so that they can see that the pain and suffering that they've caused, actually they manifested that. And if people can let that in, like even those things that you're very sure were other people's fault and everybody on the planet would agree with you, if you alter that perspective to like, wow, why did I create that experience? What am I getting out of that experience? How am I, how was that experience perfect? And how was that experience necessary to be the person I am today? If you'll go through that journey, like learn to love everything about your life, everything about your past, everything about your history, because the only alternative is to hate it and be a victim of life. You can learn to love it and be the leader in your life, be at the source of your life, be the bus driver at the front of the bus of your life, rather than being in the back seat complaining about where the bus driver has taken you in the past. So this is not about fairness. You know, lots of people have had a pretty rough ride, especially as a child. I had a pretty rough ride, but I've met plenty of people who have much rougher ride. But I can either resent my history and resent the people in my history, or I can go back and find the golden threads, find the lessons, find for myself, actually see for myself, I can actually see it, that who I am today is a direct result of all the suffering that I went through. And then now I'm filled with appreciation for that 7-year-old boy that had to deal with that thing, and that 11-year-old boy that had to deal with that thing, and that 13-year-old that had to deal with that thing, and so forth and so on. There's like this whole list of things that I can remember if I go back into the past and choose to do that. And in the past, those would have been, oh, this happened and that happened, and oh my gosh, and that happened, or this happened and that happened, or all whatever. But all of that dishonors, this word honoring, dishonors the past, because the past happened. And I can either relate to the past as perfect because it happened, or I can relate to it as wrong. And if it's wrong, then I'm a victim. And if I'm a victim, I'm not, I don't have a say in my life. I'm just waiting for the next storm to roll through or not roll through, or some person to be good or some person to be bad, or someone to help me or not help me. And that's how a lot of people live life. But it's not a very highly resonant way to live life. And I believe people live life that way just because they have not been reduced to kind of like the next level, which is to actually respond ably to everything in their life, everything in your history, because the only alternative is to be a victim. And I think that each and every person, no matter what you've been through in your life, and I know some people have been through things that they could look at me and go, Kirk, you don't know what you're talking about. I got it. But I'm still standing my ground, standing firm in that you could honor everything about your life, and then make a choice to use it for good. Make a choice to use it to be like, get the lessons. You paid the price. You paid for the groceries. Make sure you bring them home. You went through the suffering. You went through the darkness. Make sure you're uplifted from it. Make sure it was worth your while. Make sure you got the lesson that makes all of that pain and discomfort worthwhile. And the added benefit is you now get to be a model for what's possible in the world, because everybody's gone through that darkness. Not the specific one that you went through, but they went through the one that they went through. And every person that uses all that darkness to shine their light, to be a contribution to the world, to stand tall and be healthy, and it's just it makes it possible for other people.
Thank you.
That's my little journey there.
Yeah. And what I hear is about starting with yourself, is bring the lightest touch possible to yourself. We tend to beat ourselves up and get the whipping stick out, or trying to punish ourselves or pour shame, and it doesn't work. Like, that doesn't work. It hasn't worked for a long time. And so bring the lightest touch to yourself. Honor yourself, and choose to look through the lens of love and bring that to your life. And if you'd like support on your journey, and if you'd like to go deeper inside of these worlds of language, we have a visionary leadership program that I highly, highly recommend, that you can get access to your voice and finding out who you truly are from the inside out. Thank you, Kirk, for your wisdom and all these beautiful conversations. I really appreciate you and the space that you hold. So thank you to all that are watching. Description box below, all the support that you need. So thank you, and till next time.